Hello, this is John Yates, and I chair the technology practice at the law firm of Morris, Manning & Martin. And I am also pleased to be the interviewer for the MMM Tech Law and Business Report, and excited today to have Craig Lemasters with me. Craig, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, John. Thanks for having me on today.
So Craig is the senior executive at GXG, a very exciting company, and he's also a recent author of a book, Unstuck, that we'll learn more about. But Craig, why don't we start out? Give a little background on yourself and your executive leadership roles that you've taken over the years.
Yeah, so and my background is actually super simple, John, because it's a little unusual in that I worked for the same company for 27 years. So had the good fortune of growing up in a company that's now called Assurant, mid-cap public company. And it was amazing. I tell people all the time I had the best big company job anybody can have. And I mean that. The last 11 years, got to serve as CEO of Assurant Solutions, headquartered in Atlanta. And then my journey took a bit of an odd twist. I decided when I was about 54 to leave the public company life when I turned 55. And a big part of my motivation was I'd been very fortunate to learn from some incredibly wise people, and it really poured into me some things that helped me, as I like to talk about, get unstuck. And as you mentioned, the title of our book. And I thought, wouldn't that be kind of fun to see if I could go build a firm that would help other leaders that were stuck on really, really hard things. And so that's what I did. And a little bit of an interesting twist in terms of most people's path, I guess, but it's just been a blast. I started this 4 years ago, and I tell people also now I had the best big company job, now I have the best little company job. So I'm super fortunate to get to do two things that I've been really passionate about and having a blast now scaling GXG.
So what motivated you to write a book, Craig? You're an executive that's sort of done it all, been very successful. You could go out and play golf and garden if you want, but instead you write a book. So tell us about it.
It really went hand in hand with the advisory firm stuff. I mean, candidly, I knew nothing about this, ran a big company, big teams of people, lots of resource. So it's part of the appeal to this for me, John. And actually about 2 years ago, had a couple clients who had experienced our process and some of the unique stuff we do and said, hey, this really works. You're getting the output. You said you ought to write a book about it, and never thought about it. It wasn't something I've wanted to do my whole life. I know that's not an interesting story, but it's the truth. And so we did that. And all it is a very simple documentation of everything we do. I mean, it's a very transparent book. It's a short book, a short read by intention, and it lays out what we call wisdom-based learning. And I will tell you, the process was actually much harder than I thought it would be. I know a lot of authors say that, but it was very true for me, but extremely fulfilling. And I'm super happy that it's out now, and we're enjoying getting some of the feedback from it.
So who is the readership? Who would you like to see that's buying the book and learning from it?
Yeah.
What are those features?
Yeah, so I wrote it really to share our methodology. Again, I call it wisdom-based learning for a reason. We have figured out ways to interject, and I define wisdom as this unique intersection of both knowledge and experience. And everybody has that in some form. The key is, how do you find it for my particular need? So if I'm stuck, and I use that term, I'm stuck on a hard topic, we just figured out some ways to find that wisdom, interject it in the conversation, help people bust through that or get unstuck, as I like to say. So the readership is really any leader, any size organization that's stuck on something. And here's the key. Where wisdom-based learning really helps is when we're trying to do new stuff, right? Now, there's a technical term for you. It's, consulting firms call it adjacencies and all this fancy words. I just called it new stuff. So if I'm doing one thing today and I got to do new stuff to grow, which we really do need to do, that tends to be where we get stuck the most, because we don't have the wisdom, the knowledge and experience to do the new stuff like we did the existing stuff. So I would say anybody that is struggling with doing new stuff, trying to grow the business, the firm, the company, again, any size organization this works in, I would say that's the key audience. The other thing that's interesting is I've had a number of people, now that the book is out on pre-sale, and we've had people preview it and all that kind of stuff. And I've gotten a lot of feedback that, you know what, this is pretty cool content for just people in general in life and relationships. And we get stuck on things other than just business topics. So this methodology, and so maybe it's a broader appeal, but I really wrote it for leaders. And the reason is very simple, John. As you said, I had the good fortune of sitting in that chair for a lot of years. And I don't know why. I mean, there are a lot smarter people than me in the company, but I was very fortunate that for 11 years, I got to run a big company, and these are hard jobs. These are super hard jobs. I don't care what size organization. And I have a real empathy for that group of people, because when you're stuck on hard stuff, it is nothing lonelier than that. And I promise you, this methodology is a way to bring some joy back to the job, because there's people out there that know how to help you get unstuck. So that's the readership, leaders that are stuck, any size company.
Well, that's a lot of us, I'll tell you, Craig. So walk me through also, when you think about GXG and what you do there, what's that perfect client look like? And what are some examples of some problems that these companies face when they come to you? What are some of the areas where they've gotten stuck and they need input from an experienced team like yours?
Yeah, so it's evolved a little bit, John. When I first started it, I mean, I knew big company stuff. That's where I came from. So we started with big companies. We were super fortunate to have a lot of great brands that people would know. And that's sort of where we started. We've worked across 12 industries now, I think about 150 different stuck topics. I would say the biggest area they coalesce around would be generally technology-related things. So companies struggling with automation, struggling with some very granular stuff around digital transformational work. So that's a big bucket. And there's so many tentacles there. We get down into RPA and work on all kinds of interesting granular things. The other area, interestingly enough, has been company culture. So when we're doing new things, again, that's where we tend to get stuck, or we go through M&A and we're trying to integrate. So we do a lot of work around cultural stuff, some global expansion stuff, new product. And then my favorite topic is really around distribution. And I think companies, big or small, get stuck on distribution a lot. And in your world, I mean, you guys are the best at this and helping early stage companies. And that kind of brings me back to, so my ideal client was originally big companies. And then we started working down the food chain of revenue and found that this worked just as well. We did a lot of mid-cap public company work. And then we got into family enterprises, and then had the wacky idea about 2 years ago, well, why don't we take this concept all the way down to really early stage companies? And that's been incredibly rewarding. It's been super fun to help early stage companies that are stuck. And at least what they're telling me is this is a different type of help. There's wonderful professional help out there, and across all of the functional areas. There's some very high-end sort of help in terms of guidance, but people that kind of, this is a roll up your sleeves model. And I think early stage companies tend to get stuck on distribution model. And this seems to be really helping. So we're kind of covering the whole range now.
That's great. So let me ask you a question that's very much on everybody's mind, which is COVID-19 and how COVID-19 has created a unique kind of problem. Let's talk about an example of something where people are unstuck across the board. Just some thoughts on your part about guidance that you provide to companies and companies need to be thinking about in that regard. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the question because it's near and dear to my heart. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and at my age and stage, I had the good fortune of leading through, 9/11, 2008 financial crisis. My company was headquartered in Miami at the time. We were completely destroyed by Hurricane Andrew. And so for me, COVID is another one of these. I mean, this is a bigger, obviously being a pandemic, but there's three things that helped me then. And I've been sharing it with leaders in our coaching practice all the time. And they're super simple, but very meaningful to me. Number one is there's no better time to actually get to know the people in your company, your direct reports, your team. And I say that because I differentiate that from we got to stop knowing about them and really know them. We know a lot about the people we work with. Now is the time to take that one level further. And the reason we have to really know them, we have to know how they think, what's important to them right now, what their situation is, how they process information, how we make decisions. And if we do that, number two is we can then very specifically assign realistic goals and output by individual. Part of the stress right now, and I hear this day in and day out, especially from our C-suite clients, is organizational stress, and we're doing, remote or virtual happy hours. We're trying all these programs. And quite frankly, John, I think people need that. Right now, what's happening is we're just piling on all this work because we can do it. We can do it right here on Zoom. It's super easy. And I've got you. I'm going to get you to work 7 by 24, and we're doing it. And so as leaders, we've got to know everybody's situation, number one. Number two, we have to then very specifically have the expectation of the output, and it's not the same for everybody right now. And then the third thing, and again, it's a super simple concept, but if there's anything I would just beg people to do is figure out your communication plan. As a leader, pick 2 or 3 things max that you want done in the organization that actually move the needle, and then communicate it. Build the most robust plan you ever have for communication, and then double it. I promise you, double whatever you thought or you think we should be doing on communication. Those 3 things help me in those other crises. They've helped me in my own organization now, and been sharing them with anybody that'll listen. So that's what I would recommend.
That's great advice. The communication piece too is just that's very, very interesting, Craig. And I think the impact on culture is obviously tremendous here.
Yeah.
And it's something we're all struggling with. I mean, maybe as a final question, how do you see that happening? I mean, culture, I think a lot of people are really worried that their whole culture of the organization may either dissipate or disappear because they don't have the face-to-face interaction. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no simple answer. One, we have to work as leaders. I think we have to work harder than ever ourselves at doing really 2 things. Number one is we talk about it all the time, but we have to set the right priorities for the company. When I say right, it's not the perfect ones. Again, I see this pile-on happening everywhere right now. And as leaders, I believe the definition of leadership, there's only one that matters, and we get paid to make choices. That's what we get paid for or get paid to do. And more than ever, we have to make choices. And again, no more than 3. It's ridiculous. I don't care what size company, when we have these 100 different things we're trying to do and we're piling on. No, that's what's creating the stress level. That's what's destroying the culture right now. Can you imagine a leader, and just think of any organization, maybe yours or ones that you work with, John, and say, if that leader, it's a company in stress and all these problems, if that leader stood up and says, look, we're only going to do 3 things right now. And guess what? What that means is the other 150 are off your desk. We'll get back to them later. That's a cultural change. That is a significant cultural change. Second thing I would highly recommend, and we teach this a lot. I'm doing a lot of speaking right now. We're doing these free, even lunch and learn things just to help people right now. And part of that is teaching what I'm passionate about in terms of culture, and that is the topic of grit. Go get Angela Duckworth's book. She wrote a cool book on grit. It's this combination of passion and perseverance. Yeah. I've been using it for 15, 16 years before it was cool, before she wrote the book. And there's tons of detail in there about how a culture of grit, you can measure it and you can improve it, is a rallying point for teams. And there is no better time than now to have a rallying point. So those would be my 2 things. Leaders, make the choices, set the priorities, and then build your culture. I prefer to build it around grit, passion, and perseverance.
Fantastic. And I tell you, Craig, I can't wait to read your book. I guess tell us a little bit more about when it'll be available, how we can order it, and also if there's any speaking tour or opportunity to get you involved to talk about it in a fireside chat if companies are interested.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is on pre-sale right now at Amazon. The title, as you mentioned, is Unstuck, and it's available for pre-sale. It'll be released on October 6th. We'll be doing a live LinkedIn broadcast for a little bit of a book launch on October 6th. I've got a very active speaking practice now, particularly related to the book. It's all on CraigLemasters.com is my speaker website. So if you want to check out any of the talks that we're doing or participate, or if we can help you in any way, that's the best way to find me.
Craig, that's great. You have done something that very few executives at your point in life have been able to do, which is be very successful with particularly one business that you've been through and sort of work your way to the top, then transitioning to a smaller business, but where you can share that information with others. And third, and maybe the thing that most impresses me, is you've also been able to write a book at the same time and have all the energy to go out and promote it. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. You're very kind, John. I've been very fortunate, very blessed in my life, and I love sharing this stuff and love to help anybody that's stuck out there.
Craig, thanks so much. I mean, you're going to have a lot of folks that'll be reading the book, and it'll be very interesting to hear about the sequel, Unstuck 2.
Well, series, not a sequel. There's a lot of things we got to talk about. But thank you so much, John. You've been such a great partner and helped us over the years, and me personally, and I really appreciate you having me on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Craig. Our pleasure. Have a good one.